Just over a week after Trump's new tariffs took effect, Costco stores across the United States have started cutting back their hours. Aisles of essential goods are sitting empty, and prices have soared so high that customers barely recognize the place anymore. From meat, milk, and eggs to canned goods, everything is disappearing faster than ever, as a policy meant to protect America is now backfiring. What's really happening behind Costco's doors, and more importantly, is your state among the hardest hit? For many families, Costco has never just been a store. It's been a lifeline in the face of rising living costs, but that's no longer the case. Today, we'll uncover the 10 states now drowning in crisis, why Costco is pulling back so abruptly, and what could happen if this trend continues. Because if this crisis doesn't end soon, your family's living expenses could double in just a matter of months. Number 1. New York. In New York, people are used to the roar of traffic lights that never go out, and grocery stores packed with shoppers. But if you've stepped into a Costco in Brooklyn or Queens over the past few weeks, you've seen a very different New York, quiet, sparse, and empty. Longtime shoppers here say they've never seen Costco shelves this bare. The seafood section, once overflowing with Norwegian salmon, South American shrimp, and Canadian crab, is now down to a few trays of domestically sourced frozen fish. The imported cheese counter, a weekend treat for many families, has almost completely vanished. According to the state's Department of Labor, food prices in New York have jumped more than 6% in just the past 3 months, higher than the national average. Experts point to two main culprits: new tariffs driving up import costs and soaring domestic shipping rates. With goods from Canada and Europe now far more expensive, Costco has been forced to cut back on imports into the city. This hits every household's budget. One family in the Bronx said they used to buy a bulk pack of frozen chicken from Costco, enough to last the whole month, for under $40. Now they have to stop by 3 or 4 different stores just to piece together the same amount, and they're spending more than $25 extra for it. For many New Yorkers, this isn't just about losing a few favorite items. It's about their monthly food budget being torn apart. Small restaurants are struggling too. A pizzeria owner in Staten Island said he's had to shrink the size of his pies because imported mozzarella has nearly doubled in price. In Queens, budget eateries have taken seafood dishes off their menus, entirely unable to afford the ingredients. New York has never produced enough of its own food. Over 90% of consumer goods come from elsewhere. When the supply chain gets squeezed by tariffs, the city feels the shock immediately. And that shock isn't just on the Costco receipt. It's creeping into every meal and every household choice. The question now isn't when will the shelves be full again, but will there even be enough to choose from this winter? In a place like New York, where everything is already expensive, empty Costco shelves could be the warning sign of a longer, costlier winter than anyone is ready for. Number 2. Michigan. In Detroit, the Ambassador Bridge linking the US and Canada was once one of the busiest routes for goods entering Michigan. Every day, hundreds of trucks carrying milk, cheese, beef, and canned goods crossed into the state to supply major retailers, including Costco. But in recent weeks, traffic on the bridge has dropped sharply. New tariffs have driven up import costs, and many shipments have turned back, heading instead to markets willing to pay higher prices. Walk into a Costco in Detroit or Grand Rapids now, and you will no longer see aisles of refrigerators packed with Canadian beef or Ontario cheese. One employee in Lansing said they had to leave an entire section of shelving empty because there simply wasn't enough stock to display. In the fresh food area, customers line up to grab eggs from the last few trays, knowing that next week they may have to pay more. A report from the Department of Agriculture last month showed that supplies of certain essential products in Michigan have dropped more than 20% compared to the same time last year. That may sound like just a statistic, but for families in Flint or Kalamazoo, it means driving dozens of extra miles to another store or changing weekly meal plans due to missing ingredients. Rural areas feel the impact most. In places where Costco is the only bulk buy option, every empty shelf forces residents to make a tough choice: buy more expensive substitutes or drive into the city. With fuel prices also rising, either option pushes living costs even higher. Ironically, Michigan ranks among the top states for dairy and meat production, but Costco cannot rely solely on in-state supply. Their supply chain stretches across North America, and when one link, in this case the Canadian border, tightens, the entire system in Michigan is thrown off balance. If this situation drags on, the Costco runs that were once a money-saving routine for thousands of Michigan families could become a survival strategy. And with winter fast approaching, the question is, will the Ambassador Bridge still have enough goods to fill those empty shelves? Number 3. Washington. In Washington state, Costco is more than just a supermarket. It is a point of local pride. The company's headquarters is in Issaquah, just over 20 miles from Seattle, And most residents here believe that if there is any place in the country where store shelves would stay full, it would be Washington. But that confidence has been shaken over the past month. The ports of Seattle and Tacoma, the main gateways for goods from Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, and Thailand, once received thousands of containers a day. Now, many shipments are either delayed or dropped from schedules entirely. New tariffs on a range of Asian products have pushed up costs, while some exporters have chosen to sell to Canada or Australia instead to avoid the extra expense. This shift has hit Washington's Costco's directly. Seafood sections that used to overflow with Alaska salmon, Russian king crab, and frozen shrimp from Southeast Asia now look surprisingly sparse. The tropical fruit area, a big summer draw, has lost its supply of Philippine mangoes and Thai pineapples, forcing stores to replace them with frozen options. Internal reports show that imports from Asia through the port of Tacoma have dropped nearly 18% in just 6 weeks. For a state that prides itself on being the distribution hub for the entire Pacific Northwest, this isn't just an economic setback. It's a blow to Costco's image in the eyes of its customers. At a store in Spokane, staff say complaints have noticeably increased, especially over those specialty items found only at Costco: imported noodles, Asian spices, or fresh seafood. These products were often the very reason families would drive dozens of miles to Costco instead of shopping closer to home. Washington residents aren't used to seeing shortages in Costco's own backyard. But with shipments no longer arriving on schedule, the effects are rippling out even to satellite stores in smaller towns, which rely almost entirely on the central warehouse in Seattle. And as more containers from Asia face delays or get rerouted, Costco in Washington is now confronting the challenge of keeping customers loyal in what was once considered its untouchable stronghold. Number 4. California. California produces more than 33% of the nation's vegetables and nearly 66% of its fresh fruit. Yet, the latest report from the U.S. Department of Agriculture shows that over 70% of this output is exported or sold out of state, mostly under contracts that fetch higher prices than the domestic market. As new tariffs and rising logistics costs shift the flow of goods, Costco stores right here in California have started slipping to a lower priority tier. The result is that many Costco locations across California have seen a significant drop in vegetable and fruit shipments compared to the same time last year. Prices for in-state staples like avocados, almonds, and grapes, once stable, are now rising faster than the national average. Some products are being repackaged into smaller portions instead of having their prices cut quietly, raising the cost per pound without most customers noticing. What's especially concerning is that California isn't just a major consumer market. It is also a key distribution hub for many other states. When more of its produce is diverted elsewhere or shipped abroad, the ripple effect hits not only Californians, but also the states that rely heavily on California's supply. If this trend continues, food prices in California could enter a phase of double-pressure high in-state production costs, layered with fierce competition for local goods from the export market. And with California's cost of living already among the highest in the nation, the impact will quickly spill over into other household expenses. This also raises another possibility. If Costco cannot secure enough goods even in the state that grows them, it will have to rely more heavily on imports, which are directly affected by tariffs and global market volatility. In that case, food prices in the coming fall and winter could swing even more wildly, and California may find itself at the center of a tug-of-war between domestic and international buyers. Number 5. Texas. Texas has long been one of the most strategic states in Costco's network. With its proximity to the ports of Houston and Corpus Christi, and a sprawling road system, its warehouses don't just serve Texans. They act as key transit hubs for much of the South and the Midwest. But July data shows that goods moving through Costco's Texas distribution centers dropped nearly 12% compared to the same time last year. The main cause isn't local production, but imported shipments that normally dock in Houston from South America and Asia. As new tariffs push container costs higher, many suppliers have opted for different routes or shifted to markets outside the U.S., leaving Texas with a thinner supply. The difference in Texas is that the impact isn't confined to in-state shelves. When a major distribution center in Dallas scaled back operations, Costco stores in Oklahoma, Arkansas, and even Kansas felt the strain. This creates a ripple effect. Texas stores keep more inventory for their own customers, which means neighboring states face even deeper cuts. The drop is hitting a category that's considered a southern stronghold in Costco's lineup: beef, pork, dry seasonings, and frozen goods for BBQ, a cornerstone of Texas food culture. According to the American Meat Association, meat shipments to Texas Costco stores from domestic processors fell nearly 9% in the second quarter alone, forcing some locations to introduce member purchase limits. From an economic standpoint, Texas still has a lower cost of living than most coastal states, yet its food price increases over the last 2 months rank in the nation's top 5. The reason when a major distribution hub gets bottlenecked, Costco's overall bargaining power on prices weakens. And Texas, as both a consumer and a distributor, takes a double hit from supply and demand pressures. Given its central role, if shortages in Texas aren't resolved, price volatility will spill far beyond state lines, affecting much of the South and Midwest, where millions of families still rely on Costco to keep household costs in check. Number 6. Florida. In Florida, summer isn't just tourist season. It's also the time when families quietly start stocking up in preparation for tropical storms that can hit without warning. Bottled water, canned goods, rice batteries, frozen meat. These staples often fill carts at Costco, especially in coastal areas. This year, that familiar scene is shifting. Some stores in Miami and Tampa have begun placing purchase limits on certain long shelf life items. It's not because customers are hoarding, it's because supply levels aren't even meeting basic demand. Shipments from other states, which usually supplement Florida's inventory, are arriving late, disrupting many families' hurricane prep routines. What makes Florida unique is that consumer demand never really dips the way it does in other states. Tourists arrive year-round, especially in summer, sending consumption of food, drinks, and personal care products soaring. Add to that a large retiree population spread along the coast, and local demand stays consistently high. When less product comes in, distribution pressure on each store becomes far more intense than in landlocked states. Residents here have long trusted Costco as the go-to safety stop before hurricane season. But when staple items stop appearing regularly, the habit of waiting until just before the storm to shop begins to fade. Instead, many families are spreading purchases out over weeks, or even paying higher prices at other stores just to secure enough supplies. If the shortage continues, Florida could become the first state where people are forced to change their hurricane prep habits because Costco can't keep up with demand. And in a state with limited capacity to produce its own food, an empty shelf isn't just an economic problem. It's a warning sign for the community's overall disaster readiness. Number 7. Illinois. In Illinois, the changes in Costco's supply are leaving visible marks. Some suburban Chicago stores have had to shrink their fresh food displays, reallocating space to dry goods to cover empty spots. But that's just the surface. Small restaurants, eateries, and catering services that rely on bulk buying from Costco are being pulled into the spiral. When Costco's supply becomes unstable, they're forced to seek alternatives at higher prices, leading to menu changes and fluctuating retail prices. A pizza restaurant in Springfield had to reduce portion sizes just to keep menu prices unchanged. For consumers, the cost increase isn't immediate but will hit in waves over the coming months. If the supply chain can't recover quickly, Costco will have to renegotiate wholesale contracts with suppliers at new higher rates. This means products that have held their price for years will start creeping upward, and once they rise, there's almost no chance of returning to old levels. Illinois also serves as a major consumption hub for the Midwest. If shortages persist, neighboring states like Indiana, Iowa, and Wisconsin will feel the chain reaction. Costco in Illinois might have to retain stock to serve in-state customers, instead of distributing across the region, creating new shortage zones. In the near term, if food prices at Costco in Illinois keep climbing, purchasing power will erode, hitting families who rely on bulk buying to save money the hardest. Longer term, if confidence in Costco's always in stock reputation fades, long-standing shopping habits could shift. And once customers walk away, regaining sales is far harder than refilling an empty shelf. Illinois is now entering a stage where the fallout is no longer limited to supermarket shelves. It's touching lifestyles, spending patterns, and even the business strategies of countless enterprises dependent on Costco. Number 8. Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, Costco's product cutbacks aren't happening evenly. In big cities like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, shoppers can still find some familiar items, though with fewer options and smaller quantities. But in rural areas where the nearest Costco can be dozens of miles away, shortages have become a real obstacle. Communities in the center of the state, such as around State College and Altoona, depend heavily on periodic Costco trips to stock up for the month. When products aren't available, they don't have many alternatives at similar prices. This forces many families to turn to small local stores, accepting prices 15–25% higher and smaller package sizes, pushing up weekly household expenses. This gap creates a vicious cycle in urban areas. Even with fewer goods, stock rotation is possible thanks to store density and faster restocking. But in rural regions, once shelves are bare, new shipments can take weeks to arrive. The one Costco trip a month habit becomes harder to sustain. The chain reaction isn't confined to households. Community organizations and food banks which buy wholesale from Costco to support low-income residents now struggle to maintain their distribution volumes. Many have had to cut portions or limit how often families can receive aid. If this continues, Pennsylvania could see a new consumer map where urban areas keep some access advantages, while rural communities are pushed further away from affordable supply. As that gap widens, cost pressure on rural households will mount, fueling greater disparities between the two regions. In the long run, rural Pennsylvanians' shopping habits may change completely. When Costco can no longer guarantee price and supply, they'll be forced to find alternative shopping models, even if it means paying more. This won't just cut Costco's sales in less populated areas, but will also undermine the economic links that have helped the state maintain a balance between urban and rural life for years. Pennsylvania illustrates one thing clearly: when supply is cut, the effects reach beyond individual shoppers, reshaping the distribution network and consumer behavior of an entire state in ways that make fairness harder to maintain. Number 9. Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, winter brings more than just snow and freezing temperatures. It also drives a strong need to stock up on food, fuel, and essential supplies for the weeks when travel becomes difficult. For many families, Costco has long been the go-to spot to buy in bulk for the entire month, especially dry goods, frozen foods, and winter staples like bottled water, canned soup, cereals, and coffee. But this year, the winter stockpile list is being rewritten. Supply cuts mean some core products are no longer reliably on shelves, especially large-format frozen goods and long-lasting dry foods. Residents outside the Boston metro area, who depend heavily on scheduled Costco runs, now face the risk of not being able to gather enough supplies before the snowstorm season kicks in. At stores closer to Boston, slow deliveries have kept shelves from being fully restocked. In Worcester and Springfield, certain familiar canned goods have been missing for weeks, forcing shoppers to turn to smaller local supermarkets, often at much higher prices. Once winter sets in, that price gap will likely widen further due to higher transport costs in snowy conditions. Even more worrying, the long-held habit of buy early to be prepared may no longer work. If Costco's restocking remains inconsistent, stocking up now won't guarantee having enough for the whole season. This hits especially hard for seniors and households in storm-prone, isolated areas, a significant portion of Massachusetts' population. Looking ahead to the 2025-2026 winter, Massachusetts may see one of the sharpest shifts in winter preparation habits. If Costco cannot restore its supply chain, shoppers will likely turn to alternative retailers, with higher prices but reliable stock. And once customers adjust to new shopping patterns, winning them back will be far harder. Massachusetts now faces a moment where every empty shelf today could make for a harsher winter tomorrow, not just in terms of weather, but also in cost and access to essentials. Number 10. Nevada. Nevada is unlike most other states on this list. It's a desert state with limited agriculture, meaning most of its food supply comes from outside. For years, Costco has been a lifeline for residents, especially in Las Vegas and Reno, to access bulk goods at reasonable prices. But when Costco cuts back, shortages here appear faster and more visibly than elsewhere. Without large-scale local production, every truckload and container shipment to Nevada Costco stores matters. If delivery frequency drops or shipments get smaller, shelves quickly develop gaps. And once they're empty, the wait for restocking is often longer, since priority distribution usually goes to producing states or larger markets. Right now, urban centers like Las Vegas still maintain some core products, but in smaller or more remote communities, the situation is far worse. Residents are driving dozens, sometimes hundreds of miles to find items sold out at their local Costco. That adds costs not only in higher prices, but also in gas and travel time. The long-term impact in Nevada could be deeper than expected. When a state fully dependent on the national supply chain gets disrupted, every aspect of daily life feels the strain. Small businesses that buy in bulk from Costco to resell or supply restaurants are recalculating their prices, and as retail prices rise, purchasing power drops, creating a downward spiral in the local economy. If Costco continues prioritizing states with production or denser populations, Nevada risks becoming a low-priority zone, where goods arrive late, cost more, and come in fewer options. Families may have to completely shift their shopping habits. Instead of buying in bulk to save money, they'll buy in smaller quantities, paying more over time. Nevada has long relied on strong logistics to offset its lack of production. But once that distribution chain weakens, the desert state will quickly feel the squeeze. Not just in stores, but in wallets and daily life. From Michigan to Nevada, these 10 states paint a clear picture. When Costco pulls back sharply, the effects go far beyond empty shelves. They ripple into daily routines, living costs, and the economic balance of entire regions. Each state experiences its own version of the crisis. Whether it's Florida families preparing for hurricane season in Massachusetts, residents bracing for a brutal winter, or Nevada communities living off out-of-state supply. The common thread is simple. If this continues, trust in one of America's largest retail chains will erode. And once customers change their shopping habits, winning them back is no easy feat. This is not just a retail story. It's a warning that a single break in the supply chain can reshape the lives of millions.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage segregation. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.